Hello everyone and welcome to our latest review video. I'm Henry Higgins and this time out we're looking at a period of flux in the history of pro wrestling, specifically 1996 WWF, as we transitioned from the cartoonish new generation era
nails just one-handedly. Tonight on Raw, here's something else.
Let me tell you something, man. I can tell you right now.
That raw whiskey pour. Oh, wait a minute. Walking over here.
I'm just getting started.
Who, ladies and gentlemen, joining Glow Stick. Here we go. And it's not as easy as it looks. Hey, whoa!
into what would eventually become known as the Attitude Era.
To say your prayers and take your vitamins is definitely passé.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your...
Rest in peace.
We are the Generation X. You make your rules.
Now, as the blurb from Fetch Publicity, who kindly provided the review copy for us, as their blurb puts it, this is a 2-disc DVD collection dedicated to one of the most formative and fascinating years in sports entertainment history. Relive the rise of Steve Austin, the debut of The Rock, the industry-changing title reign of Shawn Michaels, the arrival of Mankind, and the evolution of The Undertaker. It's the year that changed WWE and eventually ushered in the Attitude Era. Now, when the New World Order took over WCW in mid-1996, it changed sports entertainment forever. WWE was forced to evolve in the war against WCW, which made the back end of 1996 one of the most exciting periods in wrestling. And the whole of the year is captured in this 2-disc set. The legendary superstars who ushered in and defined the Attitude Era are here. Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Mankind, The Undertaker, Triple H and Bret Hart. The majority of them are not the fully formed versions, which I will talk about a little later in the review. Prelude to Attitude includes the very best action from 96, with matches that made careers and changed the landscape of the promotion, such as the very first collision between Steve Austin and Bret Hart. There are classic moments too, such as Vader's Raw debut, the Austin 316 speech, and Brian Pillman being Pillmanized by Stone Cold Steve Austin, adding that word and that term to the lexicon of wrestling fans everywhere. But before going into my thoughts on the set, let's run through the chapters on each disc. So as you can see on the screen here, on disc 1, we open with Razor Ramon versus Goldust for the Intercontinental Championship. We have Vader and his segment with Gorilla Monsoon on Raw, which was the night after. Shawn Michaels versus Owen Hart at In Your House. That was an excellent match. Bret Hart versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley, which is quite a curio. Undertaker's first encounter with Mankind. The In Your House match between Shawn Michaels and Diesel at Good Friends Better Enemies. A blistering no-holds-barred brawl. In Your House Beware of Dog, Wildman Mark Merrill versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley. The King of the Ring match between Undertaker and Mankind, their first official meeting. The King of the Ring finals from the same night as Jake Roberts takes on Steve Austin. He was Stone Cold at this point. He did come in as the ringmaster, but we'd moved on. Sunny getting slopped, which was in the midst of her time of messing around and manipulating the Godwins, the Smoking Guns and the Body Donnas. In Your House 9, International Incident in July of 96, was headlined by a 6-man tag, which was Shawn Michaels, Sid and Ahmed Johnson taking on Camp Cornette of Vader, Owen Hart and the British Bulldog. That is a fantastic match. The crowd are into pretty much everything. That rounds out disc 1. On disc 2, there's the Raw Invitational Battle Royal, which was to determine who gets the championship match after SummerSlam. I had no recollection of this match Although, as you can see in the list there of the people who are in it, it's quite a nice eclectic mix of mid-card and upper-carders, with people who are destined to become headliners and wrestlers who people thought would have been headliners, like Ahmed Johnson, but ultimately didn't pan out. Summerslam match with Shawn Michaels and Vader is on there, which is also the match where Shawn threw a little bit of a hissy fit. Shawn Michaels again defending the championship against Mankind at In Your House Mind Games, which in the early run of Mankind, before he became the goofy shirt-wearing Mankind, was, surprisingly when you think of his feud with Undertaker, that was his best match. Shawn Michaels also cites it as one of his best matches, especially during that era, and it gave him that level of toughness that some people thought he was missing. There's the Intercontinental Championship Tournament Finals, Mark Mero versus Farouk, which was because the title had been vacated. Stone Cold Steve Austin Pillmanizing Brian Pillman's on there, and that was on Superstars, which is crazy when you look at the landscape now, that major stories and angles would happen on Superstars even when Raw was around. There's the Survivor Series match debut of Rocky Maivia, who would go on to be The Rock. His team, which is himself, Mark Mero, Jake Roberts, and The Stalker, which was Barry Windham's really bad gimmick, versus Jerry Lawler's team of Jerry Lawler, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Goldust, and Crush. A lot of those characters were in flux at the time. Jerry Lawler has always been Jerry Lawler, but a few of the characters needed some tweaking, which they got. The penultimate match is Bret Hart versus Steve Austin, their first encounter, which was an excellent match. Jim Ross on commentary with Vince McMahon really add to that. And closing out, we have Psycho Sid defending his recently won WWF Championship against Bret Hart. And that match is also absolutely phenomenal. It's probably Sid's best match in the company, I would argue. It also sets us on the road for whiny Bret Hart, who was a heel in the US and a face everywhere else. So there's a little bit of future storytelling there. And that rounds out the set. From those, the matches that definitely highlight the improvements being made are Shawn Michaels versus Owen Hart, Shawn Michaels versus Diesel, the International Incident 6-man, Shawn Michaels versus Mankind, Bret Hart versus Steve Austin, and Bret Hart versus Sid. Now, of course, you can also find these matches on the network, but having the matches and segments curated for you into one collection is always going to be a great idea, and not everyone has the network. One thing to take into account and consider is everything is shown in the 4:3 aspect ratio, which is what the original matches were broadcast in. It's a teeny bit jarring at first, but you soon get used to it, similar to Zack Snyder's Justice League, which wasn't quite 4:3, but it was a similar square setup. The set also makes me miss Vince McMahon on commentary. Now, I mean, sure, he's as cliched as they come, but he invented the majority of the cliches, and his sheer enthusiasm, especially for Shawn Michaels, for what he is promoting, shines through. It really adds to it. And mentioning Shawn Michaels, you'll also notice that Shawn Michaels appears in a lot of the matches. This is no surprise because 1996 was, for me at least, easily HBK's best in-ring year during his pre-injury run. That he came back in 2002 and surpassed even that level of quality says a lot about how talented he actually is and was. However, one aspect that you may be surprised is the ascension of Steve Austin isn't as prevalent as you might think. You do get his King of the Ring win, and listen to how quiet the fans are when he hits the stunner. It's jarring to the extreme when you're used to Attitude Era stunners getting cheered out the building. You also get his subsequent game-changing victory speech, the Austin 316 speech, along with his excellent matches previously mentioned against Bret Hart from Survivor Series. But Austin's actual rise to the top was 1997 into 1998. So for this set, his contribution is limited To put it in a context, from his Austin 316 proclamation, where he told everyone listening he would be the next champion in WWF, until he actually dethroned Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 14 for that belt, almost 2 full years had passed. Another aspect of the time, and one sorely missed now, I feel, is how into almost everything the people are. That would increase into the Attitude Era, where everyone had a character, pretty much everyone had a story to follow, and reactions were up and down the card. But the people are popping left, right and centre for pretty much everything that was on offer. Pre-internet, so there was no smarky analysis or armchair booking, just fans enjoying wrestling presented to them. And especially coming out of the New Gen era from 93 to 95 into this, there's still elements of that cartoon era being faded out, but it's definitely a much more serious product. Wrestlers are wrestlers, they are not occupational gimmicks. And the set also, and this is another little tangent, but it's similar to what we're talking about here as well. The set also provides us with a great example of why we shouldn't be dismissing someone based on their initial gimmick or perceived level of ability. Guys like Justin Hawk Bradshaw, Farouk Assad, Rocky Maivia, the Ringmaster Steve Austin, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley were all a long way from their final forms. But in the modern era, they wouldn't have been given a chance or time to grow into APA Bradshaw or JBL, Nation of Domination or APA Farouk, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, or Triple H as we know them all today. All in all, this set is exactly what it says. Great matches and segments from 1996 that ushered in the hottest boom period in wrestling history. It is the prelude to Attitude, and we here on the channel give it 4 out of 5 stars. With our top 3 matches from the set being Shawn Michaels versus Diesel in their wonderfully worked no holds barred encounter, Shawn Michaels versus Mankind in one of the best matches you'll see with a non-finish, and Bret Hart versus Steve Austin, which itself is a prelude to their iconic I Quit match the following year. Set is released on November 29th. We filmed this on November 26th, and there will be a link in the description below for you to purchase your own copy. But thank you very much for watching. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to spend it here with us. Please like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and be on the lookout for future videos coming your way. Goodbye.